welcome to the Parenting My Pocket live Q&A, episode 43 we're on today. Hope you've all been keeping well, and I hope you've been enjoying the nice weather we have here in Drogheda. If you're based in Drogheda or wherever you are, hopefully it's nice. So thanks so much to everybody who gave us lovely feedback on last week's live Q&A. There was a good bit of discussion that went on, and it was really appreciated, and I think you guys bring a lot of learning to this as well. So it's not just about me sitting here rattling on. Definitely in the comments and the discussion, you guys definitely bring so much to the table. So, and it's one of those things I will always say, that when I go to deliver a course, a parenting course, I will always come away learning something new, because the people in the course actually have lots of different ideas that I would never think of, or that I've never tried before. So we can all learn from each other. So if anything in this topic comes up, please do jump in. And like I said, last week, and actually the week before, since we've come back, the interaction from you guys has been fantastic, and people are learning from each other. So it's such an important piece of this puzzle. Hello guys coming in. I hope you've all been keeping well. So as always, got a couple of questions today. I'm trying to think, is there a couple of things to talk to you about? We had a very successful parenting after separation and divorce course last Saturday. It went really well. It was well attended, and the people who took part all really engaged in the program, which was fantastic, and hopefully they got a lot out of it. Any of the information I got back from them, they said that it helped them reframe the situation that they're in and look at things and how they can kind of do things a little bit differently going forward, hopefully with the challenges. The Parenting My Pocket Q&A Volume 2 book, which is set for launch at the start of December. We are hoping within the next 2 weeks to have a pre-order live on our site, where you can pre-order a signed copy. So we'll get that out. And the NFT project is kicking up big time. So if you're curious about NFTs and the project that we're running, head on over to Face Painted Kids on Twitter or Instagram, and follow the link to the Discord, where we've lots of we're going to be bringing lots of tutorials on how to get into crypto and NFTs. So it's going to be a bit of fun and a good journey, and we're going to raise hopefully a ton of money for charity. Okay, so I'm going to crack on with the two questions we have this week. My parents help us a lot with babysitting and looking after our 4-year-old son, as both myself and my husband work. My dad has always been really handy and loves working in the garage on different little projects. My mum bakes a lot, and both of them get our son involved with these little projects whenever he's there with them. I love seeing them doing so many things together, and my son is learning so much as he grows. Last week, my dad and our boy were making a birdhouse, and my dad let my son hammer a nail. Unfortunately, he missed and hit my dad's thumb. My dad ended up losing his thumbnail. He was fine about it and said, "It's just one of those things," but my son came home very upset that he'd hurt Grandad. My husband said to him that he needs to be careful in a stern voice, but then took me aside and said that I have to speak to my dad and to not let our son use dangerous tools. Otherwise, he'd have to cut down the time my dad spends with our son. I was horrified at this. I tried to plead my dad's case, but my husband was very definite. Have you any suggestions on how I can manage this, as I feel I'm stuck in the middle and I just want the best for everyone? So I suppose, there's a couple of elements to kind of pick out there. And the first one is that it's fantastic that your parents get to spend and engage with your son and do those things that maybe that he wouldn't normally get exposed to, because you guys are busy, you're working hard. So it's great that he's getting that exposure to those things and learning from people who know what they're doing. So that's wonderful. And I suppose you're stuck in the middle because your husband is frustrated, and I'm sure you want your son to be safe, and by the sounds of it, he probably is relatively safe all the time. It's just one of those accidents that happen. So what I'm wondering is, Is there something else there kind of going on for your husband? Is he frustrated? Is he, is there something going on that maybe you don't have to address, but just to be aware of? Maybe he's under pressure and his reaction just wasn't kind of fair, because these things happen. And how do we all learn? We learn by giving it a go, and we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we are a bit more attentive to trying to do it better the next time. So the fact that your dad was real enthusiastic and positive with your son about it, and kind of not making a big deal of it, just going, these things happen, because your son is probably going to hammer his own thumb at some stage as well. I think it would be a pity for your son to lose that interaction, because he is building close bonds and relationships, and he's learning life skills. I'm terrible at DIY. I would love to have had someone who's really good at DIY show me from a kid how to do it. And I'm sure the people around me would love if I was better at DIY instead of putting massive holes in walls when a little one is only needed. That's besides the point. So I think maybe it's okay for you to take a step back here. Look at, is my husband overly stressed, more so than usual? Is there stuff going on? Are we stressed? Is there pressure, financial pressures? And about taking that different view where we can kind of go, look, these things happen. I absolutely will say to my dad, just to, maybe talk our son through how you hammer something a little bit more, because if your dad lost the nail, there's a good chance it was a good old whack. So, and maybe you don't have to say anything, because maybe your dad has learned a lesson. I need to, slowly take him through this process bit by bit without letting him start swinging a hammer around my head. But yeah, you can have this conversation with your dad without it being, look, Dad, this is what you have to do, or else. You can have the conversation around, maybe Dad, just think about what you're letting them do, and maybe start small. Give them a mallet or something like that to start it, and then practice. And then your dad will probably go, yeah, no bother. Or you might say, look, I know what I'm doing. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. And then you can chat to your partner and say, I've had a conversation. I don't think this is something we need to be going from him spending lots of time with my parents, to pulling it all back because of an accident, because that can be more detrimental on our son if he thinks the reason he's not seeing his grandparents more is because of something he does, and that's what we don't want to get across. So I'd say maybe come at from that perspective, in terms of trying to get your husband to understand the impact of, like, our son loves spending time with his grandparents, loves it by the sounds of it. If we take that away because he's hurt granddad, well, he learns a lesson that he has caused this to take place, and we don't want that. And I think if you come from that, again, it doesn't have to be finger pointing accusatory. It can just be, look, let's see how this goes. If he's gonna learn how to hammer nails, well, he's going to learn how to do it right, because if he hurts himself or hurts somebody else, then it's painful. So he's going to learn those lessons, and that's how people learn about hammering. We've all done it. We've all smashed our fingers. He's only learning. So you can have that conversation with your husband, have the conversation with your dad, but also check in with yourself and look at, what is it about this that I'm feeling caught in the middle? Is it because you don't think it's a massive issue? Is it something that, your husband, sounds like he's gone from something small to 50 steps ahead, where your son is cracking his own head open with a hammer. That's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen, because I'm sure your dad is quite responsible when it comes to looking after his grandson. So maybe just check in and go, right, I don't need to be caught in the middle. I can have this conversation with both of them, and we can put it to bed and just go from there. And then just see how things go. And if it ramps up again, where maybe your dad does get hit again, or your son does hurt himself again, just have that conversation about, is this something we need to be really making our son overly aware of? Because, like, if we hit ourselves in the hand with a hammer, right? If every person who did that just went, okay, I'm not touching a hammer ever again because it is far too dangerous, well, we don't learn that we can survive it. We don't learn that it's all right to make a mistake and carry on. We don't learn that we're resilient and we can bounce back from it and that it doesn't have to be a massive issue. These are like with your parents teaching your child these skills, it's not just about your son being able to do these things when he's older. It's about his understanding of himself and his self-belief, self-confidence, self-assuredness and resilience. It's all those things that we want our kids to have. But this is how they learn it. That it's okay for me to bang my finger and it's all right. I'll get over it. I'll be fine. And it doesn't mean I give up trying just because it didn't work out. So I hope that works. Give it a try and see how you get on. Hello everyone. Evening Caitlin, I forget. Maria, evening. Great win for Liverpool last night. It was a fantastic win. Jennifer, good evening. Hope you and yours are doing well. We're doing very well. Hi Amanda, good to see you. Right, question number 2. My son has just started secondary school. So for those of you not in Ireland, secondary school is 12 plus. So it's the first year after doing our primary school. My son has just started secondary school. He's doing relatively well considering the change from primary school and getting back into a classroom and all that entails, especially after COVID. He has always been very much an outdoors type child who just loves spending time with his friends, and homework has always been a struggle. He forgets to write down his homework or when it is due, and then gets frustrated when I try to help him as he can't answer my questions. We've tried different ways to help him, letting him get a snack and chill straight after school, getting homework done straight away, writing notes to the teacher to remind him of his homework, and all three have worked at different times and not at others. We are at a bit of a loss as we don't want him falling behind, plus I cannot imagine having to deal with this for the next 6 years on a daily basis. Have you come across any techniques that have worked for others in the past with their children similar to my son? Thanks in advance. So the first piece I would pull out of that is, and it's just to re-emphasize the point where anxiety is an emotion of the future. So we worry about what could happen, and it's usually the worst case scenario, and we never think about the best case scenario, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So when this person says, I don't want him falling behind and I don't want to have to deal with this every day for 6 years. So think about that narrative that you're creating already. So you're creating a level of this is going to be horrendous every day for the next 6 years. So what happens then, we ignore and don't pay attention to the days that could go well, the days that go well, the days that go well, the day that didn't work out, and then it's like, see, this never works out and it's going to be like this forevermore. So we need to pull that right back to going, what do we need to do right now? And as you said, some of the things that you've tried have worked, which is fantastic. And like anything, some things will work today, tomorrow, the next day, but not the next day, but they might work again after that. So it's about trying to get a melting pot of things that have worked over time and trying to find what works most regularly. Can't even speak today. Yeah. So what I'd say, like some of the things that have worked, definitely speaking to in secondary school, probably a form teacher or a year head or a class head, and say, look, my son has always been a bit, it's been challenging for him to focus on school and homework especially. So I'm wondering, is there any suggestions that the school might have or what we could do? Because they may have some brilliant suggestions. Now, there is a certain piece in this where your son has to learn to navigate this situation because he is getting older and the school don't have time to just sit down with your son And I know you're not expecting this, but to sit down with your son and make sure he's written down all his homework. So there is a bit of ebb and flow. And the other important piece of that is that it's only just started. So the school year has only just started. So he's only just getting into this. And it's all right if it takes him maybe 6 weeks, 2 months to get into this routine, because he's only learning something new. Now, I understand what you want to do is try and support him to get on board and get this working as quickly as possible. But look at the things that have worked. So does the coming home, getting it done so you can get out, work more regularly than the others? Does coming home, having a snack, or maybe you can play it by ear depending on the day. So you give him the option. Look, son, would you rather have a snack today, or would you rather just crack in and get the homework done? Now, there's a lot of parents probably screaming at the camera going, yeah, but Alan, we've been there and we've said, what do you want to do, son or daughter? And they've gone, oh, yeah, I'm going to get a snack and then I'll crack straight into it. And then they get the snack and an hour passes and you're like, okay, it's time for homework. Yeah, I'm going to go do it now. And half an hour passes. Yeah, I'm getting on that. Oh, and an argument starts. It's about trying your best on any given day, right? And it can be exhausting, it can be challenging, and you may not have the time. But if you know that your son struggles, maybe it is about taking that time so that you know that, okay, well, the dinner is prepared, or I have everything set up so that we are ready to go out the door to the activity. So everything is done. All we need to do in the time when he gets home is focus on getting him that structure as best as we can, as quickly as possible. And so you're not as stressed going into this, where you're trying to get dinner, trying to get stuff organised, trying to get other homework done, and that's the reality. But as best as you can, trying to take those things out of the way so they're not coming into play as much. Like I said, have a chat with his form teacher, see if they've got some suggestions. They may be able to help. And then you can start to look at, okay, he can't write things down, right? Or if he struggles to write things down or forget, well then, does he have friends who may help him out by giving him the homework? What's important about that though is if he does, you don't want him to be going, it's grand, I don't need to worry about writing it down, I'll just get my mum to give such and such a ring and then I'll have the homework. So maybe you can look, we don't want to be getting into this routine of you forgetting things where we're having to call your friend just to get the homework. So we're going to start off small. You take 5 minutes, 2 minutes at the end of the class to go up to the teacher and ask, have I got this homework written down right? The teacher might not have time, you might forget, but we're going to start this now, okay? And then we'll check in when we get home, and if you're not sure, we may check with your friend, but this is on you. You need to learn, because he does. He needs to learn to step up and learn that responsibility for himself. The only way to learn it is to actually go through it. So do that, sit down with him, and just say, it takes you not even 2 minutes, it might be just 1 minute. Go up to the teacher, say, we have to do this amount of pages, is that correct? Yes. And maybe you can offer him a reward. Instead of going to the consequence stage straight away, look at the reward stage. Okay, so if you take down your homework, you can get 15 minutes extra on your PlayStation, or your Xbox, or your Nintendo, or whatever. Or you can stay outside for an extra 15 minutes. And see if that works as an incentive for him to get into the routine. Because if it's punitive, if it's a consequence, he already has a negative association about doing the homework, forgetting about it. So he may be coming in the door anyway going, oh no, there's going to be an argument because I haven't written down my homework, or I can't remember what it is. So he's ready for the fight, and he's going to fight with you and argue his case because he's going to feel in a top-down position. So look at the reward. It's just flipping it on its head. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. At least you're trying it. But try the reward. It works. But do it in blocks. Okay, 15 minutes extra or half an hour extra. Whatever you think, 10 minutes extra. Whatever you think is going to work to get your son incentivized to do this. But get him to talk through how he's going to do it at the end of each class. And some kids may be worried about their friends slagging them off, taking the piss, going, oh, you have to go and ask teacher. But it's okay to give them the excuse going, yeah, that's grand. But if I go home without my homework, I am dead. My parents are going to kill me. Or, I don't want to lose my phone. I don't want to lose my console. I don't want to lose my screen time. This is why I'm doing it. So, that's the way it is. Shut up. And you've talked him through what he has to do. You've talked through the incentive. And then you've talked through how he can manage it with his friends if they start slagging him off. And see how it goes. It's a very simple approach, but it's taking stress off. So it's trying to reduce your stress as well. So you've got everything squared off, sorted, so that you can give him the time to sit down and go through it. And then you can encourage him through the incentives to make sure he takes down his homework. I hope it works out for you. Do I think Arsenal will win tonight? Of course they won't. Caitlin, I'm swapping your sugar for salt, so your next couple is bad, and that's towards Maria and VV. That's a great approach, Al. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, guys, that's us for today. Have a wonderful week, and we will chat to you very soon. Take care.